Were you shocked the football focus was axed? I hadn't even noticed it was on.
Obviously, this is complete and absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
She doesn't say, well, actually, Mr. President, they didn't use AI. She says in a rather simpering voice, I hear you, Mr. President.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to phone the writer tonight to say, stick a bag of cocaine in on page 3 and the BBC will lap it up. Hello and welcome to Insiders, the podcast all about the world of television with me, Jimmy Mulville.
And me, Peter Fincham.
This is the podcast for people who love TV and want to know a bit more about what goes on behind the scenes. So, Peter, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I've just been continuing to live.
I can see that. I can see that. I mean...
That is actually a quote, by the way.
What do you say?
Do you want to know what it's a quote from?
Yeah.
You know Simon and Garfunkel? Paul Simon.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Paul Simon, there's a live album called Live Ryman.
Right.
And between two songs, he's tuning up or somebody from the back of the audience says, say a few words. And Paul Simon says, well, let's hope we continue to live. And the audience laughs, and there's a huge round of applause. It's not the wittiest response, isn't it? So I was unconsciously quoting that Paul Simon witticism.
He's a great songwriter.
He's a great songwriter.
Obviously, not someone to get stuck in an elevator with. But
you'd be able to see over the top of him because he's a very short man.
Don't be short.
You know the story about him and Douglas Adams? We're going way off piste.
That's all right.
We're going way off piste.
We don't have a piste
here,
Peter.
We haven't even got onto the piste, and we've gone off it.
We're already après-ski.
Douglas Adams,
very tall,
great novelist, great fan of Paul Simon, could play his songs, all the really kind of finger-picking guitar. He was a very good musician, Douglas. Paul, as I call him, as if I know him, was playing...
I'd call him Simon.
I've actually met him, but he was playing Wembley Arena or something like that.
Yeah.
And Douglas has organised to meet him backstage afterwards.
This is post his Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy
Oh, this
fame.
is when Douglas is a very, very famous novelist and Paul's a very famous songwriter. Yeah. Famous people kind of, just
being famous together.
So Douglas goes back to the stage door after the gig and he waits, and then this guy comes in to say, oh, you're here to meet Paul? And he takes a look at Douglas.
Where's the guy from?
He's American.
Okay.
He takes a look at Douglas, disappears for 5 minutes and says, I'm afraid Paul cannot meet you.
Wow.
Too tall. Paul would not be in the presence.
Because Douglas was 6'4".
6'4". And Paul Simon appears in one of those Woody Allen films. Is it Annie Hall or Manhattan or something like that? He makes Woody Allen seem tall. He's that short. Now, I know this isn't about television, but in a sense, we're fulfilling our brief to say a bit more about what goes on behind the scenes of show business. That's the way the world works.
I saw Simon and Garfunkel as a paying
I'm seeing
member
Paul
of the audience.
Simon next month, by the way. He's back on the road, I
saw them in the 80s, the early 80s at Wembley, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Except for one moment where Art Garfunkel walked towards the front of the stage and took the microphone, and Paul Simon sat at the back on a stool. And Art Garfunkel said in his rather pipey voice, I'd like to sing a song now which is very important to me. It was a song which was made famous by a film, Watership Down. And the sound of 100,000 people going for a drink.
Yeah. And Paul Simon, why are we going to listen to this?
Well,
he didn't even write it. Do you know who wrote Bright Eyes?
No.
Mike Batt of the Wombles.
I knew that. Yes, I did.
Sorry, we're laughing because we've disappeared down a rabbit hole that will
literally a rabbit hole. It's Watership Down. It's Watership Down. You've picked the perfect metaphor, Peter. For the first time in 55 podcasts, you've actually picked the perfect metaphor.
No, it's true. Mike Batt, who wrote the Wombling song and Remember a Womble.
Yeah, I love that song.
How many more Wombling songs do you want?
I think I want that played at my funeral. Anyway, I went to a thing last night, which I normally avoid.
We're going back to television now.
We're back on television. I went to Channel 4. Not that I normally avoid going to Channel 4. I was there till 10 o'clock at night. I wasn't rifling through Ian Katz's desk.
You weren't pitching programmes before the current regime leaves, hoping to get them under the wire.
No, I was at a charity quiz night. Now, I'll be honest with you. I normally avoid charity dues. I'd rather just give them the money than go, because it's like 5 hours of your life you don't get back.
Particularly if there's an auction.
Oh, well, there wasn't. What's great about this, and there are other things that are great about it and why I made an exception. But what was great was there was no auction. There was no auction at the end. The auctions where you win a voucher to have your child captured in watercolor by a local artist.
And you never
I've got a drawer full of them.
You never follow it up. Or you buy, as I once did, a pair of Wellington boots signed by Alan Titchmarsh.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I paid £500 for these Wellington boots. I can't remember what the charity was. And then I offered another 50 quid for Alan not to sign them. Said, if you think I'm walking through my village in Suffolk with Alan Titchmarsh's signature on the side of my Wellington boots, you're joking. So he agreed not to sign them, and I chucked in another 50 quid. Honor was satisfied by that.
Yes, so it was actually in aid of the Andy Taylor Foundation. And the reason why I'm very attached to this is that Andy Taylor was a man who in the 20 years ago, he was a working class lad from Rochdale. He got himself into television, and then he set up a digital studio. And he worked on the digital side of the business, which was before it was even a thing. I mean, YouTube was in its infancy. And in 2013, I think, he set up a company called Little Dot. And Little
Was
Dot
this connected to Channel 4 then? Or did he work at Channel 4?
Yes, I think there are connections there. And I think that Channel 4 donated the room, that nice kind of cafe area when you walk in.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of inhabited that. It was a really jolly evening.
One where you wait for your meeting.
Yeah. And
spend a lot of time in it.
Yeah. Andy Taylor sadly died very early of a brain tumour. And his wife, Lara, set up the Andy Taylor Foundation. And basically, they go around the country and they engage with young people and try and help them to get into the industry. In Liverpool, they're taking, I think, a dozen young people between 18 and 22, and they're called this part of a group called NEET, which is not in education, employment or training. And it's a growing problem in the country, of course, is that young people leave school or college, they can't get an entry-level job, and then they languish and they kind of wither on the vine. So it's capturing these talented young people and giving them skills and then finding them placements. And companies like Lime Pictures in Liverpool.
Another All3 Media company.
Another All3 Media company. And they are going to help out with some placements, and other companies are getting involved. So Little Dot, I looked up Little Dot. It gets 9 billion views a month. It's stuff.
Wow.
And it's owned by All3 Media. It's a very successful company. And we used to give our catalogue to Little Dot. And they would reskin it and put it on social media, and we'd make a profit out of it. And now we do that through our own company, Strongwatch. But what was funny was that they had a round where they put the editor's digital barcode of a film up on the screen. So it has when you look at their screens, they have these different colours. You have to guess which film it was.
Oh my God!
It was fucking impossible.
Yeah, that would be literally impossible.
And then we had to build.
That'd be like saying, "Have a look at a QR code. Guess what you're going to connect from it."
I tell you what, I had a really
It's a game I do play at home occasionally.
Yeah, it's a sad life you lead. I'll never come. If ever you invite me around for a QR code evening, I'm not coming. But there was one moment where they said, "Now is a bit of our physical round. We're going to ask you to build a tower out of a roll of tin foil."
Right.
So what was interesting? These very
it sounds a bit Blue Peter.
You can imagine. You can imagine how competitive it is.
Yes.
Right. So Alan Sugar was there, by the way, and we completely fucked it up. My tower, how can I put it, was flaccid. Right. It kept bending over.
Yes.
So much hilarity, and we couldn't get it off the ground. The table opposite us.
You're going to tell me Alan Sugar is an expert in building tinfoil towers?
No, I don't think he got involved. I think he was more executive. But there was one guy who was building the most massive tower, and it looked like they were going to win. And he was taking it so seriously, and he's getting more and more foil. We were all thinking, he's actually getting foil that isn't. He's getting a secret supply of foil. So we're getting a bit of foil envy. And then they said, "Now, can you please take your hands off the towers?" And his tower completely collapsed. And everybody applauded. The Schadenfreude was fantastic.
I would tell you that I was working with Alan Sugar on The Apprentice, or we were making a talkback. I can't remember if it was then or whether it was at the BBC, when he was Sir Alan Sugar and then he became Lord Sugar.
Yeah.
And I said,
Lord Sugar.
Is it very easy? When he was called Sir Alan Sugar, it was easy to just call him Sir Alan. because he liked being called Sir Alan, Sir Alan, Sir Alan.
Yeah.
When he became Lord Sugar, I couldn't work out what to call him. So I said, "What do I call you now?" He said, "You can call me Al."
Oh.
Exactly. We've circled back to Paul Simon,
And
and
then-
I thought for a nanosecond.
And you can call me Bessie.
Exactly. I thought for a nanosecond. I'll tell you about a story about that in a minute as well. I thought for a nanosecond he was making a knowing reference to the.
No.
But then I realised he had absolutely not at all.
He's an irony-free zone.
Okay, so the story. Do you know the story about "You Can Call Me Al" behind the song?
No.
Okay, so in the early '60s,
Yeah.
when he's just becoming famous,
Paul Simon.
Paul Simon,
Not Alan Sugar.
not Alan Sugar. Paul Simon is invited to a party by Leonard Bernstein, the
Oh,
great
yeah. West Side Story.
conductor, composer, West Side Story, etc.
Yeah.
So a big thing for little Paul Simon, because we've established he's quite little. And he turns up with his wife at the time, who's called Peggy.
How tall's she?
Oh no, I beg your pardon, she can't come. She's not feeling well. I don't know how tall she was. That's not the point of the story.
Okay.
So he stays for a while, being a bit nervous and all these posh people, and then he leaves. And Leonard Bernstein sees him out, and Leonard says to him, "Thanks so much for coming, Al, and do give my love to Betty." But he's called Paul and his wife's called Peggy.
Wow.
So the point of this story is that rankles with
Yet
him
the resentment.
for over 20 years until he makes the Graceland album in the mid-'80s when he turns it into a brilliant song.
Never piss off a short guy. That's
any of this-
the moral from of that story.
Any of this going to make the edit?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, go back. That sounds like an extremely worthwhile evening.
It's a brilliant charity. Laura Taylor's done a fantastic job of pulling this all together,
Oh,
and we're
good,
being helped
good, good for
Liverpool
her.
Film Office. So that's why I went. Otherwise,
Always good to go to Channel 4 and feel that was time well spent.
yeah,
In my experience,
It's
that's
a
about
rare
one
occasion.
in 10.
yeah, and no, you're absolutely right. The best charity evening I was invited to was in America. It's called the No Show Ball, and what you do is you buy a table and you don't turn up.
Right.
Everybody pays.
So if everybody doesn't turn up, they don't even have to have the ball at all.
Exactly. So they make a
very
small
good.
fortune
That's a
out
very
of
good
people
idea.
going,
People can stay home and watch television instead.
and the invitation is, I will be delighted not to be at the No Show
That's a
Ball
very clever
on
idea.
April the 30th.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that great?
Yeah.
That's what I wrote. Anyway, you've had a bit of good news this week.
Yeah, not me personally, but expectation. Yeah, we've won a tender, which is always a satisfying thing to do, and we're making a pilot for BBC and NBC or NBCU, as they're now
It's
called.
a big game reality show.
It is that, and it's a pilot, so it's a big opportunity.
Don't tell me the format because I'll
you
probably
might nick
steal it.
Yeah, it's an interesting question that all production companies have to think about from time to time. Is it a good idea to get involved in competitive tenders? I used to feel, back when I was running Talkback, rather kind of anti that and feel in a rather snobbish way, oh, we'll come up with our own ideas and just, tape them to broadcasters and,
But now you're
and get
desperate.
them commissioned. But no, the world has changed in lots of ways. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, with a competitive tender, it's nice if you win, isn't it?
Brilliant if you win.
But
for all kinds of
obviously,
reasons, actually.
I also think there's an issue there for broadcasters. If they are putting out a brief for a competitive tender, how many people should put that out to? Because in a way, the more companies you put the tender out to, the more companies have the opportunity to win it, obviously. But since there will only be one winner, it means an awful lot of people are making a lot of effort that really doesn't go anywhere in the end. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Should you go to your favourite 3 companies and say, one of 3 will win, or should you go to 8 or 10? I don't know.
the
Do you
BBC
do it? Do you do it at Hat-Trick?
We have done it. I mean, we've got Mastermind,
Yes.
and
But that's slightly
proms.
different because that's
They're
obviously
putting-
an existing program that you're saying.
But,
we're not going to wreck the program. We'll keep doing the program well, but you're really pitching yourself as
But it's a competitive
as
thing.
a service company in a way. I mean, I don't mean that pejoratively.
Absolutely, no. You're
Saying we'll deliver it on time, on budget, and all that kind of
But
stuff.
we once were involved in a couple of years ago. The BBC Entertainment Department put out this tender for a daytime quiz pilot, and The World and His Mother entered, and it took a year to go through the process. Where they kept whittling it down. It was like its own game show.
Yes.
So basically, they start off with I don't know how many companies, and it whittles down to 12, and they give those 12 companies, which we were included, a bit of money to do an office pilot, and then of those office pilots, they whittle it down to 3, and you do a bit more, and then you whittle. And I thought, actually, is this about job creation for people who work at the BBC? Because it clearly is a waste of time for most production companies to get involved in that.
And you can see that, and I have seen this happen for the commissioner. The commissioner has an unusual level of power here because 8 or 10 companies are trying to win their favour and get their attention. But as you say, mostly the unsuccessful pitches will go nowhere. I mean, it's not impossible that you've done all that work on the tender, and then when you're not the one who wins it, you can take it off to another broadcaster and sell it. But kind of the odds are against if it's to a specific brief. So I think I'm kind of neutral on this. It'll be very nice for us, an expectation that we've won this.
And for Ben Wicks, who
Ben Wicks,
your
my
head of
my colleague and who's spearheaded this, with Dave Flynn, who he works with, who I think
used to be
know.
part of Remarkable at
That's right.
the Endemol Empire.
Absolutely. So it's a great for them and very exciting for us.
Congratulations.
But I kind of think on the whole business, I think if as a production company you spent your whole time in competitive tenders, it could be a slightly soul-destroying thing. But
as opposed to pitching ideas and having them turned down.
Well, waiting in the area of in that cafe area at Channel 4.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If I said to you there was a new drama that went out on the BBC called The Cage.
Well, I've seen a bit of it. I've seen an episode.
And
of that,
it's set in Liverpool.
Yes.
What would you say it was about?
Well, I know what you're going to object to. It's about criminality, but it's not your ordinary criminality. It's not like that thing, The City Is Ours, which I actually thought was a very good show made by Left Bank, which is a gangster show set in Liverpool.
And The Responder with Martin Freeman.
But The Cage is written by the same guy as The Responder.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's about a couple of people who work in a casino and start
And brilliant Sheridan Smith.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd watch anything with her in it.
Yeah. So I think I watched an episode I thought was really good, actually.
You know
what? Is the point you're making that you don't see dramas about happy, law-abiding people in Liverpool?
I want to see. Well, I'm beginning to build a picture of the BBC drama's view of what Liverpool is. So
you should develop a drama about people in Liverpool who are law-abiding, smiley citizens,
like most people in Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly,
yes.
and then get it turned down.
Well, no,
and then
I
this
thought
will
what I'd do is
confirm your view that if it's got Liverpool in it, it needs some criminality.
Well, the most identifying factor in the 3 dramas of Responder, City Is Ours, and The Cage. By the way, all really good dramas.
Is that they're about criminals?
No, they've all got a bag of cocaine in them.
Okay.
So I've got a pitch for a rom-com between 2 middle-aged people in Liverpool. And I can't sell it. I think the mistake is
they don't do cocaine.
They haven't got a bag of cocaine. So I'm going to get.
Easy to fix, Jim.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to phone the writer tonight to say, stick a bag of cocaine in on page 3, and the BBC will lap it up because they think Liverpool coke dealers. Let's do it. For goodness' sake, BBC drama, wake up and smell the coffee. Anyway, were you shocked the Football Focus was axed after 52 years? I hadn't even noticed it was on.
It's one. I'll put that in that category of the person you once knew, who you've, as it were, almost forgotten their existence, and you're only reminded of your existence when you hear from a friend that very sadly they've died.
Yeah.
Well, oh my God, were they still alive? So the Football Focus to me is the televisual equivalent of that.
Yeah.
And I saw an interview in one of the newspapers with Bob Wilson, and he did the same interview that we talked about this a few weeks ago that David Dimbleby did when they decided to slim down the live events team, which is basically, this is the Ravens leaving the Tower of London.
Yes, terrible.
This is the end of all civilization.
What are they doing to my
it's
BBC?
A tragedy. And I'm afraid, even though I've never met him, but I understand Bob Wilson's a very nice man, I'd say to him, no, Bob, this is television.
Yeah.
This is what happens. And the way we watch football changes all the time. Apart from anything else, the BBC's ownership of football has been progressively loosened,
Dwindled.
over many years, with Sky, with TNT, with Amazon Prime, by the way. Last night's match,
I know.
we're recording this on a Wednesday, between Bayern Munich and,
What a great game.
PSG. That last night was on Amazon Prime.
It was.
So nowadays, we talked about this in relation to HBO Max. Nowadays, you think at 8 o'clock, you think I'm going to watch that football match. It's 8:15 before you can find it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different channels it can be on. So therefore, the BBC doesn't have the same ownership.
No.
The way we watch television has changed. I mean, after all, Match of the Day is still there, but Football Focus.
No one watches
somebody
Football Focus.
Somebody somewhere in the BBC would have said, this is out of time.
We probably talked about it more than anybody else.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I always say this about long-running programs. The longer running they are, the sadder it is when they come to an end. But the longer running they are, the more successful they've been by running for that length of time. In other words, if you'd cancelled Football Focus after one season, nobody would have shed tears.
No.
It runs for 52 years, so it feels like an event. But if you'd said to the people behind it in that first season, you're going to run for half a century, they'd have said, we're happy with that.
And I've heard that
we'll take that.
The BBC Sports.
When the BBC eventually drop, Have I Got News for You?
Thank you.
It will be,
my bowels have just turned to water.
It will be a sad moment, Jim.
It will.
And the people will write articles about it and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But I remember when it started.
Yeah.
It
was very dodgy start.
And you were running, actually, I was running Talkback, but you had Angus Deaton hosting it, who was my client and so on. So I had a kind of tangential
You
involvement.
did.
How many years has it run for now?
Well, it's run for 36 years.
36 years. You would have taken a 36-year run, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. But now it's run for 36 years. You want it to run for another.
Well, it's like when people say
another 36 years.
It's like when people say, who wants to live till 90? So we'll talk to an 89-year-old. We got a letter from somebody. Do you want to hear the letter?
Yeah, go on.
It's an email.
From Nigel Williams.
Nigel Williams, for people who don't know Williams.
Is this Nigel Williams, Nigel Williams?
This is the great editor, Nigel Williams. Not the writer, Nigel Williams.
Not the writer, Nigel Williams, who is the
father
of Jack and Harry Williams, who are two brothers who are brilliant and prolific drama writers.
No.
But another Nigel Williams, who's an editor. Okay.
Who is
I'm glad we cleared that up.
as good an editor as Nigel Williams was as a father of two brilliant writers.
And a writer himself.
And a writer himself. I actually worked with him once.
Yeah, he's a very nice man.
On a very unsuccessful
I
thing.
actually sat opposite him in the Tube only a couple of months
Are
ago.
we having competitive Nigel Williams tub trumps?
I'm confident that you won't be able to say you've seen him on the Tube.
I once saw him naked.
Because you never go on the Tube.
I do. Oh, by the way, I've broken through my denial. I got my freedom pass.
Have you?
And I'm using it now liberally. I love it.
Do you get that urge to
I go on the Tube even when I
go
don't need
to
to go.
Hainault and back just to see what Hainault is like?
Cockfosters.
Cockfosters.
All right. So Nigel Williams is a fantastic editor.
Yes. He
And
got in touch.
He's one of those editors where you give him the show to kind of, you just say, oh, just bring it down to time. And then you think, well, I'll get to work on it. And you turn up and his choices are usually impeccable. He's an artist. He's a brilliant editor. And he sent us this rather provocative email. Can I read it to you?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Because I want to hear what you've got to say about this. I was very encouraged by your views on AI as a tool to support rather than dominate program makers. I recently used an AI tool that eliminated the need to cut away to place ADR on the back of actors' heads to clarify plot points or make jokes funnier. You know that technique where you say, look, we'll just get him in to do a bit of ADR and that will make sense of it. The AI software allowed the new recorded audio performed by the original actor to be synced onto the face of the performer, and from the nose down allowed the mouth to mimic the new dialogue. This included a very funny punchline that punctuated the end of the scene. After showing the production, they were blown away by how good it was, but horrified that I'd used AI to embellish the scene. We ended up editing the line in the traditional way by cutting away to another actor, losing all the impact of the newly written dialogue. This is a classic example, Nigel adds, of AI being used purely as a tool to enhance the show, but production freaked out as soon as the word AI entered the conversation and banned it.
Well, there you go. So this is what we were discussing when we were discussing AI. I'm really glad Nigel's, written to us about this, because it's almost like a perfect example. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? So, to go over what you just said, we've all been in edits where you think, oh, God, we haven't quite landed that plot point in that scene, or that joke hasn't quite landed, or whatever. But it's fine, because if we go onto the character who's listening, and we've got the back of the head of the character who's speaking, we can record some ADR, which is a perfectly normal thing to do. You get the actors in during post-production.
ADR, additional dialogue.
Additional dialogue required, ADR. And what Nigel was saying there about putting in a funny line, generally speaking, a funny line isn't as funny if you're looking at the back of somebody's head. So it's not a perfect way of delivering a joke, but it might be okay delivering a plot point, clarifying something about the end of a scene or whatever. So now he's talking about AI being used when you're on the face of the character, but what you're doing digitally is making the lips move to say this funny line or plot point. Exactly. You might say amazing, or you might say, what? What's going on here? This is the beginning of the end, because this is AI taking over the process. Now, I think we're kind of on the same page here, which is you resist this at your peril. All filmmaking is artificial in one way or other.
Yeah.
The ADR is artificial.
Yeah.
When you're doing ADR, you're cheating, because one of the most common words is in an edit is cheat. We say, how can we cheat that? How can we give we cut from an exterior of one building to an interior in a studio that we filmed 2 months later. We are cheating by lulling the audience into thinking it's the same place in the same day. So why do we draw the line at AI? Is it that AI has a, sinister quality to the idea of it that we're all very worried about? I can't help thinking, like all technical innovation that helps you make a program, it's going to win. It's going to win in the end. But this particular instance, the actor's lips moving, it's interesting that what Nigel talks about is production freaking out. How does the actor feel? How does the actor feel? The actor will cheerfully come in and do a session of ADR, perfectly normal. When you say, we've actually digitally made your lips move to a line that you never said, I'd be interested to know how many actors would say, I don't want you to do that. Does it start to feel a bit like deep fake? And deep fake has a very pejorative feel to it. When you say this is a deep fake thing, but people think it's wrong. It's either morally wrong, or it needs to be made clear to the audience that these techniques have, you've cheated in some way. Again, back to that word cheat. I'd be very interested to see how this develops. In 5 years' time, will this be normal, or will a mixture of squeamishness among production people and resistance from actors and their agents mean it doesn't happen again?
I think that's a very good analysis of it's not black and white, is it? At what point do you say, no, that's actually going to impinge on the human element? But what you've got here is a human editor, Nigel, who's using his ingenuity to be creative, to get the best.
So he's pro it. He thinks this is what
saying,
he does.
But this makes my job better. I can offer you a better solution to the problem you've got by using this technique. So in the same way that editing itself is a cheat. In the old days, it was live television.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then editing came along, and you could manipulate the images in a more sophisticated way. I think I don't know the details of the show, but if the productions come at it from the point of view as, this is a hot button topic and we can't get involved with AI because we're frightened of it, then I think we need more education. We need more people to be educated about what AI can do and what it should do and shouldn't do.
But I'd love to hear from anybody listening to this who feels strongly the opposite of what Nigel Williams is saying and what, in a way, we're sympathising with. I'd love to hear articulated the argument that says we shouldn't allow AI into the production process.
I'd like to know how much actors enjoy doing ADR. I don't think it's an entirely enjoyable process for an actor.
Well, I think it's a bit of a chore for an actor.
Coming in, schlepping into a studio.
Weeks or months after they've got to get back into character, you've got to kind of match the timbre of your voice, so it can be a little bit tedious before you get the take that you think this is a good match and so on. So again, if you said to an actor at the end of a shoot, thank you very much. Don't worry. If we need some extra lines, we'll do it all digitally. would an actor say, well, that's a relief because I'm moving on to another show, or would they feel threatened, or maybe a mixture of each? But I don't think we can be definitive about this, but I'd love to hear different views about it. But let's move on to, we got another AI story, and I think this is a very interesting one in a completely different way. Donald Trump, President Trump, he did an interview on Sunday night. I'm going to read what he said verbatim.
Please don't do an impersonation.
I'm not going to do an impersonation, but he's talking about the issue we talked about before, which is still rumbling along about the BBC and the fake edit in the Panorama about January
for which
6th,
he's suing BBC for
which
10 billion.
BBC. So this is what he says. I've also won a lot of money from fake news media where they write falsely about me. And when they say, can we all get along? You can. But when people do things like that where, how about the BBC? When the BBC has me, actually AI, they had me saying a horrible statement. And I said, I never said that. It turned out they gave me an AI, a little AI treatment where they had my lips speaking words of hate, tremendous hate, that I never said. They don't know what to do. They've admitted they're wrong. They just don't know what to do. They actually had me making a major statement, and it wasn't me. It was my face. It was my lips. My lips were perfectly in sync with the words I said. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. So Trump said this in an interview with CBS correspondent Norah O'Donnell, and it's up there on YouTube. So,
and that was after the assassination attempt.
Yeah. And I'd recommend you to watch it on YouTube, because to me, one of the most shocking things at the end of this nonsense is what Norah O'Donnell says. She doesn't say, well, actually, Mr. President, they didn't use AI. That's not the issue at all. She says in a rather simpering voice, I hear you, Mr. President. It's not exactly Jeremy Paxman, is it?
Well, we know why CBS is like that, because they are owned by the Ellison.
Don't worry, I get all that. In other words, Norah O'Donnell's defense would be to say, if I was too challenging to the president, we wouldn't get another interview.
And also, you can't
with him.
fact check him while you're interviewing him, because you wouldn't get anywhere.
This is what happens when the democratic norms are eroded and the freedom of the press is under attack. It becomes more difficult to do the job that journalists are supposed to do. But she doesn't challenge him. But obviously, this is complete and absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
And he's said it, and I'd be interested to know what percentage of people will think it's true just because he said it, and he goes unchallenged in saying it.
Well, I think he's probably done his case some harm, because I would imagine the BBC lawyers would take this statement and use it in their defence, saying there's been a lack of understanding of actually what the offence is, because what they did, as you know, is they bungled an edit. They edited together two parts of the speech which weren't contiguous. They were actually separated and put them together, and it looked more incendiary than it actually was. Although the speech itself was quite incendiary if he just left it as it was.
He absolutely said the words. That's the point. He said the words. In the edit,
AI was not involved. It was an editor.
No, the BBC... there were people within BBC News who said, oh, this is normal editing. But I think their voices got drowned out by more sensible voices saying this wasn't normal editing. This was an edit you shouldn't have done. He did misrepresent his speech. But the point about this, and the point about this interview with Trump on CBS, is it did not involve AI at all.
No.
So it makes you wonder, has he been misinformed? Has he just made it up? Does he not understand the difference between AI and editing? But... depressingly, it goes unchallenged on air. I hear you, Mr. President.
I know. Well, he's many things. He's got many defects of character. His most glaring is his stupidity. So when he's briefed by his very experienced military chiefs, and he's told we should call it an incursion into Iran, he comes out to the press and says, we're having an excursion to Iran. So as opposed to a violent invasion, which is what an incursion is, it's an excursion, which is like a kind of brief holiday.
It's not even an incursion, because an incursion means you actually go into somewhere. They haven't gone into Iran at all.
Dropping things on it.
Bombs
and then when he posted that amazing meme of him as Jesus Christ healing what looks like a young Jeffrey Epstein on the bed, which is a bizarre choice.
Well, he did need some.
He then came out and said, "No, I'm supposed to be a doctor," and the story is, according to Michael Wolff, I think, has written 4 books about Trump and has got people on the inside of the White House. He said the briefing was when they all sat down and thought, how the hell do we get him out of this hole he's dug himself in? Picture himself as Jesus Christ around the Easter holidays. They said, Mr. President, just say the image was doctored.
And so he says he thought he was a doctor.
So he said,
Okay.
I thought he was a doctor.
Yeah.
So let's face it,
But
he's
look,
a fucking idiot.
Well, look, we got one other story, so we could maybe quickly cover, because this goes in the opposite here. Here we are talking about technology and AI sweeping into the industry and doing things that real human beings once did. But this is the opposite. So this is the story that A League of Their Own, the show made by CPL, brilliant show, which has been running...
Sports quiz.
A bit
like They Think It's All Over, Peter.
Yeah, some would say a bit of a descendant of They Think It's All Over.
Show you used to make.
Yes, it's sort of like if They Think It's All Over was Bill Haley and the Comets. A League of Their Own is Elvis Presley.
Not Paul Simon.
That's a really bad analogy. Doesn't even begin to stand up. But League of Their Own has been running for years on Sky.
Yeah.
Very successful.
Big show.
It's been cancelled, which of course is a sad thing. A sad thing for the
Why was it
production
cancelled?
team.
Do you think the entertainment department was funneling the money into SNL? Because SNL's costing $2 million an episode.
Maybe. I mean, I think they've also cancelled Nevermind the Buzzcocks. I think they've had what's that chilling thing, a strategic review and deciding panel shows or their
They've
descendants
been
are no
on
longer.
an away day, haven't
They
they?
may have been on an away day. Anyway, let's.
shit.
I love Sky. They're brilliant people. So
Do you?
let's not
Okay.
criticise Sky.
You got a show in with
A
them.
good couple, yeah.
Okay.
But this is interesting. They cancelled League of Their Own, so what they're going to do, they're going to take it on the road. They've announced a tour of A League of Their Own, an arena tour, and that's big venues.
Yeah.
I mean, arenas are
Thousands.
10,000 people. They're going to do shows in Liverpool, your
Yeah.
hometown. Lots of bags of cocaine.
Oh,
Imagine
it'll be
floating around
well,
backstage.
it'll
maybe
be
maybe a few guns.
It'll probably be in the Cocaine Arena on Cocaine
They're
Road.
doing shows in Liverpool, Manchester, London, Newcastle, Birmingham, Glasgow, starting in September. According to the press release, the tour will be hosted by series veteran Jamie Redknapp, with Jill Scott and Tony Bellew serving as team captains.
Scousers.
Comedian and A League of Their Own regular Tom Davis, very funny man, will also join in the fun, etc., etc. Now, I can't think of an example. I mean, when one calls League of Their Own a panel show, it's in the loosest sense because it became a bigger thing than that. But I'm not sure I've seen a comedy show of this sort go to arenas before.
No.
And I'm sure whoever's promoting it will think they'll sell them out. They
Well,
won't be doing it.
you've seen the kind of tours of things like sketch shows, like the Fast Show.
Slightly different thing, though.
Yeah.
And I don't think at arena level. I don't think so. I think big theatres.
We looked at it a while ago with Have I Got News For You. The problem with Have I Got News For You is you have to keep changing it every night.
Yeah, you
because
can't trot it out, as it
you
were.
can't
It's got to
keep the
be.
same.
It's got to be new.
It's got to be responding to the news. So in the end, it became a logistical.
And it'd be quite difficult to put a lot of big production into it, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Because
you'd have
it
to do it in
really
a
is
theatre.
sitting behind a desk.
You have to do it. Maybe you could do it at the Apollo or something, like a 2,000 seater. But we did think about doing it at the Albert Hall for a week.
Yeah.
And we were approached by a couple of theatre producers to do that. But in the end, it just felt like you couldn't really sustain the quality,
Yes.
And Paul Merton and Ian Hislop, they'd have to kind of do the same thing night after night, and that's not the show. But, you build up these brands, and now, I told you I've encountered this horrendous expression, which is called the flywheel of value. You have a program or you have an asset on YouTube, and the value you get from it is what you do around it. So live shows, podcasts, merchandising, all these things are, we used to do that in the old days with VHSs and Christmas books, but now it's a different game. So, we did Drop the Dead Donkey recently. We've toured Drop the Dead Donkey, which was a show we did in the 90s about a newsroom, for those of you who are too young to remember it. And it sold out around the country, but it was only playing theatres, so it basically didn't make any profit. It washed its face. It was good fun, great show.
Interesting to see what other shows you could do this with. And it does occur to me, you could do it with Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
You could do
you've
that.
got music there, which fills an arena.
You could have live
and
bands
the
on it.
truth is, I used to own half of the format rights in Nevermind
Well, the Nevermind or the Buzzcocks bit?
Well, I came up with the title. The title was my title, but when I sold Talkback in 2000, I sold my IP with the company. Am I going to regret that?
You're looking a bit wistful now.
Yeah, am I going to regret
Well-
that when it's filling
Well, I'm
arenas
going to
in
reveal that
Manchester and Leeds and Liverpool?
I've actually secretly bought the rights to Undermine the Buzzcocks,
Have you
and
now?
I'm putting it on a world tour.
Is this like when Michael Jackson bought the rights in the Beatles songs
Yeah.
to the annoyance of the surviving Beatles? It's been quite a music-themed show, hasn't
Yeah.
it? You-
That's been all right. All right. You're an expert in music. I'm just a lay person.
I never think
But I think, have we come to the end of our conversation this week?
I think we might have done. That's all for this week. Thanks very much for listening. Any questions about the world of television or indeed music that you've always wanted to ask, send them our way. We'd love to hear from you.
You can get us on our email or on socials. All the details are in the description.
Or we might even be doing an arena tour starting in September.
Yeah,
Should we do it? Start in Liverpool?
absolutely. We'll start in the well-known cocaine arena.
Even better yet, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel?
Yes, thanks for listening, and do tell your friends, and watch or listen to Insiders wherever you get your podcasts.